Hello, and welcome to episode number 24, Social Selling for Newbies. Brandon, good afternoon.
Hey Tom, how are you? Hi everybody.
Doing
I'm
good.
excited. I'm excited today. I'm a little energized, so I have to apologize maybe in advance that
Oh boy, do I have to balance you out and be extra
you
calm?
no. You can rise to the occasion
No,
as
well, we're
well.
we're on our own today. We're without Carson.
I
We're without
know.
the
What's up with
salesman on
that?
fire, so we are going to have to make up for that. Um,
That's true.
Carson
We're
is,
gonna have to be thinking about movies. We got to keep the trend going
that's
here.
right. So Carson is out celebrating his dad's birthday. So happy birthday to Mr. Hetty Sr. Hope they're having a good time. And we will try and do our best to keep things going. So today
Okay.
first of all, we should welcome all of the podcast people. Um,
Yes, we need to do that. We forget
because,
sometimes. Sorry,
yeah,
podcast folks.
yes. And every week we get more podcast downloads. So we appreciate it. And we're going to be doing more to promote the podcast here going forward. So if you haven't subscribed, do so. Um,
Yeah.
and we'll have some bonus stuff, I think, also on the podcast here before too long.
We'll have
So,
to start putting links to the podcast in the live event too, so
yeah,
everybody can see. And welcome everybody that's on live. I think we're on my LinkedIn. We're on Social Selling for Newbies LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. I think we're in my Facebook community. We're kind of all over. Love the power of Restream.
yeah. And I'm going to keep an eye. Last week, we didn't see all the comments. So, first of all, apologize to people who commented and it never showed up.
Yeah,
Um, so, we're going to keep a closer eye on that this week.
yeah. Yeah, and if
So,
you guys are here, put throw in the comments. Let us know who's here, where you're from, whatever else. Tell us your favorite dad joke, whatever it may be. But then that way, there we go. So you got Brandon. Brandon's on there. Did you see
all
that
right.
on your end, or is that
I
just on
did. No,
mine?
I see that. Okay. This
Hey,
is a
we
good
both got
start.
it.
All right.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect.
So we're going to talk about, what do you, if your prospects are not active on LinkedIn, what the heck do you do? But before we do that, we are going to have our weekly dad joke challenge, Brandon versus Chat GPT. So,
I love it.
and, and Carson uh, sent us a joke or sent me a joke from Chat GPT to
All
compete with
right,
you, Brandon. So I'm going to let you start first, as always,
you
and
got
we'll
it.
see what we can do.
Okay, so you can't make a dad joke if you're not a dad. If you do, you're just a faux pas.
Okay, the bar is low. This is good. All right. Chat
I
GPT
tried.
is definitely in the lead here. So
I just said something and Chat GPT's in the lead. Oh
yeah.
man, I got to dig deeper. I thought that
Right.
was a good one. A faux pas. Come
Well,
on.
hey Mike. Well, Mike liked it. I don't know.
Well, that's
We'll see.
good.
All right, so here we go. So why did the salesman quit his job at the orange juice factory?
No, I didn't
Because he couldn't concentrate.
concentrate.
All right.
All right.
I think that
Yeah,
one
thanks.
wins. I'm going to vote Chat GPT. I don't know.
Chat GPT one this week. All right.
We'll see what.
Brian said that my joke was like limbo on the ground. I appreciate that, Brian. And Mike and Butch, thanks for joining, guys.
All right. Well, let's move on to more serious topics, which is when your
Oh,
prospects are.
wait. Hold on, Jeff. I think Jeff Leisure sells better dad jokes than I do, and he's got a lot of them. So let's see. If a young lady breaks up with a farmer, does she send him a John Deere letter? Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's good. Thanks, Jeff. Somebody on Facebook voted for me. I can't see who it is, but there we go.
That's what they're being incognito. They don't want to admit who it is that voted for you. So there's a
Thanks a
reason for
lot.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
All right.
let's
So
get to the serious stuff.
yeah, um, we might just do an all dad joke show. I think
Oh, that'd be fun. That
maybe.
would be fun.
So all right, they'll probably be our highest rated show ever. Now that I think
That's
about it.
true. We'd have to bring Jeff on. I think Jeff will win that competition.
We could have a contest. So we've
All
had
right.
a lot of conversations this week, Brandon, with prospects and clients and just people we work with, and it seems to be a theme this week, which is
Yeah.
Well, but my prospects, are not active on LinkedIn. And so how can I make social selling work if my prospects are not active on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
And it's a very valid question, right? Because I think a lot of times social selling, the concept of it to most people is social selling equals LinkedIn. Hopefully we're going to talk about that. That's not necessarily the case today, but I think that's a
Hmm.
lot of what goes through people's head when they think about social selling. But
Yeah.
the way I thought we would start is kind of looking at, categorizing, if you will, the four types of prospects, if you will, as it relates to social.
Yep.
So you certainly have, right? The obvious ones are the active prospects, which are the people that are, let's just use LinkedIn, right? They're active on LinkedIn, they're commenting, they're posting, right? That's the ideal situation,
Mhm.
clearly.
Yeah, and I would say differentiate that because I think active could be those they may not publish because a lot of people get really, really freaked out about actually publishing. But active for me is that they're logging in and they're liking and or commenting on other people's posts. For me, that's active because we can still manage our activity to engage with them, even though they haven't published themselves.
So would you consider that more of a, like, I think I had that as active and semi-active, but, or do you,
Oh, that yeah.
or would it, I mean, is there a difference or does it matter from your perspective?
Well, it depends on what the goal is for the person at the time. Are you prospecting to try and take somebody to turn them into a healthy connection? Right? We've talked about this before. Just a good um, review is you have non-connections, you have connections, and you have healthy connections. So if you're prospecting and you're just trying to get from, hey, this person doesn't know me from Adam, and I want to become a healthy connection. Um, no, I think your term of being semi-active, which they're logging in and they're commenting and liking, is sufficient.
Okay. All right. So we're going to categorize people active that are active one way or the other, commenting, liking, posting, not posting, but they're showing up and they're engaging. Maybe that's the better word, is they're
Right.
actively engaged at that. Then we have sort of the next category, which I don't like the name, the lurker name,
Yeah.
but let's just, maybe we call them viewers or consumers.
Viewers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lurker sounds so creepy, but
Well,
I get
yeah, and it also sounds negative, but
right,
what they're
right.
doing isn't negative. What they're
No,
doing works for them, and they're a viewer, and whatever their goal is, they're logging in and they're reading, they're
right,
watching,
right,
they're listening.
right. Now, unfortunately, it's hard to know who those people are, right? There's no way
Mhm.
of necessarily knowing if they're not posting or engaging, as we've talked about, that they're on
Mhm.
LinkedIn at all. Um, but they're still there and they're still consuming the content that's there. And then
Right.
there's the third category, which would be somebody who is not on LinkedIn, right? Is not active, never reads anything, never logs on to LinkedIn,
Mm.
which would be the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah. And really we don't know. Mike, thanks for lurking over here, Mike.
Well, he's clearly not
Mauricio.
understanding. Mike is
Yeah,
active,
that's right. He's
right? Mike
active.
is active. He's not a lurker,
Right. But and really we don't know the difference between somebody who is a what we call a viewer, a lurker, and someone who's inactive. Because we could look at their profile and go, oh, they haven't posted in 2 years and they haven't engaged with anyone else's post for um, whatever, 6 months. Oh, they're inactive. No, we don't know that,
right?
right? They could be a viewer, they're a lurker, whatever you want to call it, but they could be viewing. So they could be consuming some the stuff that we publish and what other people publish. So we just don't know that.
Yeah. So, but that is the challenge, right? Because when you go to do your social prospecting, you're obviously looking for people that are active as a way to tee up that engagement and tee up that
Right.
social prospecting piece.
Yeah.
So I think the question that we want to talk about today is not so much how much we deal with the active people. We've talked a lot about how we do prospecting and everything with the active person, but how do we
Mhm.
handle the situation when we're trying to build healthy connections in a company and so forth? And then we are working with the viewers or the lurkers, if we're going to call them that, or the inactive
Yeah.
people there. So, um,
Yeah, for sure. And guys, thanks for the comments and keep them coming. Michael, we have a lot of mics today. Michael, Mike, Brandon. Um,
we
keep
have
them
Michael from
coming.
Germany.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. But guys, if keep them coming, and we'll go back and forth. Don't get discouraged if we don't address them right away. Yeah, I mean, I think in Tommy, you and I talked about it. And we've got our show notes to talk through it. Is I think the easiest one while you're in LinkedIn is to click over to the company and see who the other people are. And I actually did this as a video today in our community. So a little plug out for modernsellerhq.com. It's free community if anyone wants to join. But I did a video for this, and there is that, even with the LinkedIn, the unpaid free version of LinkedIn, you can go do a search by company. And then when it gives you across the top, it's going to be like people, companies, post, and a bunch of other things. If you click on post, and then you click all filters, it'll give you all these different filters, and you can choose people who have published in the last 30 days. And it's a really fast way of finding out who, if anyone, in this company is actively publishing content.
So
Right. And then
you're starting with the company, and then it's giving you a list of everybody who has been published, or is it active commenting or anything else?
publishing.
Okay.
They only give you publishing, but you can
Okay.
at least start there, right? And my viewpoint would be anyone that's publishing content, they're actually going to be commenting too. But I like to use that because they're publishing content. You can also go look at their content, and you want to see who's been engaging with their content. And I'm going to pause there for a second, because we know that a lot of times when the company post, or maybe somebody from executive or C-suite post, the people who like that post the most tend to be the employees,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you can go look and see who's posting, and then you go and click on the number where it says the number of people that have liked it. You can click on that number, and it'll pop up and show you everybody that's liked the post. And it shows you their picture, their name, and you get a little bit of their headline. A lot of times you can look through and you start seeing who the people are, and you're able to quickly see who's active on LinkedIn. And if you click their name, it's going to take you right to their profile. And I usually like to do, I'm a Mac guy, but you press Command and click their name, and it'll open it up in a new tab. And I can get a series of tabs open of people in this company that are active in social media or active inside of LinkedIn, and start there. So too often we hear, and we heard it this week, oh, you know what, the people we wanted to talk to or wanted to meet, we went and they're not active on LinkedIn. And the tendency is to go, oh, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And, the reminder is, everybody, like, sales is hard. Like this whole concept of, oh, social selling is going to be easy. It's just not the case. It's accelerates things. You can do a lot more activities faster than getting in your car and driving or getting on planes and all that. But it still takes effort. You've got to be entrepreneurial thinker and keep going and figure out where can I find intel.
Well, and I think what you're talking about is, even if let's say you wanted to reach the president in a company as an example, and let's say the president was active. Okay, that's great. But I think what you're explaining about looking at the company and finding out who else is active, or
Mm-hmm.
I think that should be a best practice no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to
Yeah.
start, and Carson has talked a lot about this, and his success with his larger deals is building the relationship with the ecosystem in the organization,
Yeah.
and using that, not just trying to go, okay, I'm going to go get a meeting with the president, and then that's going to turn into, because think about it, even if you got the meeting with the president, in most B2B situations, even if that meeting went well, and even if it was a piece there, is that you would end up having to, other people in the company would be involved in the sales
Yeah.
process anyway.
It gets kicked down.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good practice to do what you just described as you're moving in, trying to build a relationship with the company. And if the president in this example was not active, then yeah, go to some of the people that may be that maybe then could build the relationship that ultimately could lead to the introduction to the president, if that's what you're looking to do and need to have happen.
Right.
And I know
Right.
Carson's talked a lot about doing that, is, doing that to get to CEOs or key executives or key decision makers. But at the same time, now once he gets there, he has a groundswell of support versus trying to go top down and, get all that
Mhm.
groundswell of support. So it's just
Yeah,
a good
and it's
strategy all the way around.
yeah, and it's a good strategy for what we talk a lot about with changing the mindset. I was in some commenting conversations today on LinkedIn around sales, and you know, when we get our back up against the wall, we're not hitting our numbers, whatever it may be, we tend to get sloppy and we go like everything is, oh, I gotta sell, I gotta sell. And it's the exact opposite of what's most effective, right? When we go to serve, we go to add value, we go to help people, build relationships with lots of people in an organization. And in some ways it feels slow, but it's building that backflow, it's building that groundswell that helps you ultimately close a deal, because now you have relationships with 3, 4, 5 people. Yes, you can always ask for the introduction or the referral to the person you want to meet with. A lot of times I find if you meet somebody and it goes well and then you ask for the introduction, what you've also done is you've turned on your signal that you're a salesperson. You're just trying to close a deal. Like, there's real people on the other side. Treat them as such and just be service oriented. Add value to them, serve
Well,
them,
I don't want
learn.
to. I want to pop up what Mauricio was saying here about building momentum, right?
Yeah,
If you build the momentum, you'll inherently get to the person you want to get to,
right.
right? So
And you get
don't
there
worry about
better.
it, right?
Yeah,
Pardon?
you may feel like you're not going to get there as fast, and I say feel that way because I would disagree. I think you actually get there faster and you get there better, and you have better conversations because it's not so much a sales conversation at that point. It's a, hey, this person's been helping us, adding value. We've learned a lot, whatever it may be.
Yeah, no. So I think that, again, what you've talked about, and especially looking at it from the company perspective, right? Not as the
Mhm.
individual only, but looking at it holistically from the company, and then building and even if you still choose to engage with the active president, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that, but also engage with some of the other people that potentially
Yeah.
are active on there as well. And as we said, in B2B, it's very seldom one person who's entirely involved in making a decision on what's actually going to occur.
Yeah.
So
And before we go to the next one, I like to say too is, go turn the bell on at the company page and get notified whenever the company publishes, because it might not be all the time information that's real valuable to you, but they're going to share about the company. You're going to get intel, what's going on, what are they trying to do? Oh, they got a new hire. Like, you get some great intel. But the other thing is, go to their post, review their comments, and click on the number of likes and see who's liked it, because you're going to see all the people in that company that are active, right? I mean, it's everybody's habit, right? Oh, there's a post for my company. You feel obligated to like it. And for our perspective on the sales side, that's just intel.
yeah,
Who's active? Who are they? And then go engage with them.
yeah.
Put them in your fist bump list.
Well, I was going, yeah, and the other thing too is that, and we talked a bit about this last week, right, on from connection to customer, but don't even start this process if you don't have a strategy of how you're going to lead them and help them, right? Think about how
Right.
you want to serve them, as you've talked about, before you get in there, and then you end up with a bunch of likes, but you're not really moving, as Mauricio was
Yeah.
saying, you're not really building momentum. So
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to next week, I think, or last week, and I forget where I was on. Somebody was asking me questions the other day, and they said, "Well, what do you think the most important habit is with social selling?" And actually, it hit me because I normally would have said something else. I'm like, you know what? More and more, the most important thing you can do is read stuff, consume content, be intelligent and knowledgeable about your industry, because then you have plenty of things to publish,
yep,
Oh, I read this today, and this was really cool because, but it also gives you a lot of information to comment on. And all of that because you're reading and you're consuming content, watching videos, whatever it may be, um, you're filled with knowledge to be able to share and to be seen as somebody that's adding value.
Mhm. Yeah, no, you're aggregating that knowledge, right? Which is very valuable. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy to get.
Yeah.
So, Mike Franz has a question that I wanted to pop up here before we go here. If when you DM a connection, do you ever CC common connections within a company?
It's a good question. I was actually reading Mauricio's comment too, which is really good. Yeah, Mike, I think, I mean, here's the awful answer. Sure, when appropriate. I don't like to blind side people into things and have them feel like something came out of the blue or feel obligated to respond. I had something the other day, been talking with somebody, wanted to get introduced to someone, and I said, and I asked them, I said, well, how about if you introduce us via a LinkedIn message and link us both to it, right? That way, yes, there's more than just one to one. There's three of us in it, but they initiated it,
Right,
not me.
right.
So yeah, I will do that at times, but I don't do it blindly. I just don't think it's great practice to do it blindly and put somebody on the defense or feel obligated to respond or give them the reason to ghost us. I mean, it's hard to come back from that, right? And we did something, they ghosted us, and it's hard to come back from that.
Yep. So, and then let's pop up. Here we go from Mauricio. Just kind of double clicking or what you were saying, Brandon, is noticing a huge difference between liking and commenting. That people are
Mm-hmm.
more open to connecting and engaging with you if you comment.
Yeah.
Not only are they more open because of the comment, you become more visible, right? Unless you go look to
Right.
see who likes, you don't know
Yeah.
necessarily who's liking your content. But the
Yeah.
comments are front and center. And I don't know, the notification algorithm sometimes will tell you when somebody likes it, but more often tells you when the comments that are there. So you're
Yeah.
going to get more, from the algorithm.
Yeah, for sure. Look, if you're going to use your social media activity to get seen in their notifications, just make commenting your go-to activity. I think Butch, who's on here, Butch was telling me earlier this week that he was going through our social prospecting framework, and he had commented the second time, I think, on somebody's stuff. And this is a non-connection, if you guys understand. The social prospecting framework is comment 3 or 4 times so they get a notification, they see you before you send a connection request. And I think he was saying he was on the second comment, and then the person turned around and sent him a connection request.
Right.
Like he didn't even have
Right.
to get to
Right.
the stage of sending it.
Yep.
I mean, how huge is that, right? When
Yep.
somebody sends you the connection request and your activity, strategically going back and commenting on their activity, twice a week or whatever it may be, gets them to notice you and reach out.
But that happens way more often. That's not just like you know, a once in a million situation where somebody does that. That happens frequently if you're
Yeah.
commenting that the other person is going to reach out and look to connect.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
So,
Brandon Triplett has a story about that too that he shared in our community the other day. So yeah, you're right. That happens a lot more. And Mauricio, I think, is the one that sent it. Yeah, the commenting is just, I mean, guys, it's 25 times more valuable than a like, maybe
yeah,
50 times
yeah,
more valuable, in my opinion.
yeah.
Make that your habit.
No, agreed. All right. Well, let's move on to kind of another strategy. We really wanted to provide some practical, I guess,
Hmm.
strategies today on what to do with this problem, right, or this challenge that exists there. And the other option. So let's say obviously look at the company, but let's say the person you really want to connect with is not active, as we talked about.
Hmm.
So the next thing that you can certainly do, and we, and again, Carson's talked a lot about this in his world when he's dealing with these large enterprise sales, but it's true even in a SMB sale or a small medium sized business sale, is go research and see where if that person that you're trying to reach is not on doing something else on LinkedIn. Go to
Right.
Facebook and see if they're talking to their grandkids or their kids or their whatever, their friends or whatever
or they
the
have
case may be.
hobbies,
Right.
right? Whatever it may be. Yeah. And I think, sorry, Tom, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I told you I
No.
was all excited today.
Go.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, I heard the pushback this week too from somebody like, oh, but isn't that kind of weird that I'm like this LinkedIn person and now I'm showing up on their Instagram? I'm like, no, it's only weird if you make it weird, right? Like if they have an open, and as an example, Instagram, it could be TikTok, whatever. If it's
Facebook,
open, it could be Facebook. Yeah. And I mean, Facebook's a little more challenging because you have to be friends with them. But Instagram, TikTok, you don't have to be friends with them. You can go follow them. So if it's open and they're posting about whatever it is that they do outside of work, man, what a great way to engage with them. And this is why I think it's okay. When we go out to dinners with customers or lunches or networking events or, happy hours and, whatever it may be, that's the type of stuff we talk about, right? We talk about golf. We talk about, sports teams. We talk about traffic. We talk about hobbies. I almost didn't get to come tonight. My son's in the school play, and I almost got caught because I had to go pick him up or something. Oh, tell me about the play and tell me what's your son's role and things like that. Like this is what we humans talk about, and business gets to be a part of it, right? Just because you're on LinkedIn, this whole mindset of LinkedIn is only business is just a fallacy. We're all human. So if you can find them on Instagram and they have a hobby of painting and they're posting pictures of it, what a great way to connect with them, right?
well, and even if you Google somebody, right, and look and find, their picture, or you may find a press release, there could be a million different things where you could find information about that person or
Mm-hmm.
about something related to the company or the group of people that could be relevant to build a
Yeah.
conversation with, right? So it doesn't just have to be a LinkedIn post. It could be Instagram, as you said, but it could even just
Yeah.
be Googling, heck, use Chat GBT if that's what I mean, there are some
Yeah.
people that you can get information on that there. And
Yeah.
again, it's not to be creepy about it. It's anything, right? If you go to a networking event and there's people you want to talk to, chances are you're going to do your research and find out who they are and what they like. And why wouldn't you
Mm-hmm.
do that? I mean, it's just
Or you
smart,
you go over near them and you
right?
kind of be on the outside of the circle and listen to the conversation because they're having it in a public environment, and you're there and you're kind of listening, and when you hear something that you can contribute to, you contribute. And if it's received well, like it wasn't rude or disrespectful or anything, the circle kind of opens up and they make room for you, and now you're part of the circle. And then at some point you go, oh, by the way, I'm Brandon, and you shake a hand and now you're introduced to them. That's the same thing we can do in social media, right? You go and you find them on Instagram, and it's open account so you can follow them and you see what they're doing. And you have an intelligent comment. Oh, wow, that's really cool. I love your paintings. Or, I mean, if anybody was following me on Instagram, you'll see that my wife and I and our 10-year-old, we love to hike. And you're going to see stuff like that on the weekends. And if you guys commented on that, I'd be like, oh, yeah. And then connect with me on LinkedIn. And guess what? We're friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's modern selling isn't about social media, in my opinion. Modern selling is about using the tools that are in front of us to be able to connect and build relationship with people in our network, our community, our prospects, and maintain those relationships. And we do that by adding value, creating content, showing up, being top of mind, commenting, and just going deeper into those relationships. Nothing has changed. We've always done this before we talked at screens. We're just doing it in an environment where we talk with screens. And like Mike Franz, who had to leave, he and I were on a Zoom earlier this week.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because of LinkedIn, because, Tom, you and Kevin invited me to be a guest on your show last Friday. Mike watched it, sent me a LinkedIn request. We chatted, we scheduled a Zoom. We had a great conversation. And how else would we have met?
Yeah. Yeah.
in other worlds.
Yeah. No, and I think too many Brandons here today too. It says, and Brandon Triplet is saying, I don't
We are
understand.
everywhere.
Yeah, you can't escape. I don't understand how researching a potential client has become creepy. It's just another step in the social game. It only becomes
Yeah.
creepy if you were to make it creepy. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's that. But I want to go one step further. What you were talking about, just about modern selling, and another question that came up this week a lot was, well, I can't. They're not active on LinkedIn. I can't find them on LinkedIn. Can I just send them an in-mail, or an email, right? Or an
Yeah.
in-mail. An in-mail being the LinkedIn email, and is that okay? And we talked a lot about this. We even talked about this with a client earlier this week. Is
Hmm.
basically, and I think this is where having the value of having some form of a live show like we're doing now, or a podcast, or something that's a regular event. If I were to reach, if and this is what our answer was, right? If you're going to reach out through InMail to somebody, the last thing you want to do is pitch slap them with, "Hey, can we have a discovery call?" Or,
Hmm.
"Hey, can you take a look and buy my," all the stuff that we get, right? But if you have a podcast or a show or even a series of webinars or videos or whatever that you're doing, and you know that, hey, I just thought that this might be, now it may get ignored, right? I mean, InMail and
Hmm.
all of that stuff is, there's a lot of things that get ignored on that. So by no means am I saying this is a perfect channel or a perfect route. But if you're going to use that and it's part of the strategy, then make sure that you're sharing something that isn't, "Hey, look at me," or "Buy, what are you going to do for me?" But provide in a podcast or a live show. And we use this, right? It's a great way to just make an introduction and share something with somebody. If you're going to
Yeah.
go down those more colder channels, if you will, which is
Yeah.
email and
Yeah.
in-mail and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, you know what happened? I got my inner Carson going on right now.
Yeah. Why, you want to talk
Yeah,
about a movie?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
I had visions of John Cusack and Say Anything holding the boom box over his head outside the girl's window trying to get her attention, right? Modern selling is using all the tools available to us to try and capture attention and build rapport. And if you want to use InMail, go for it. But be smart about what you send, right? Because if it's asking for anything, you have made no deposits into
Okay.
that relational equity account, but you're going in and you're asking for a withdrawal. So if you're going to use InMail or email, or like I always like saying, you can skywrite. I don't really care what the medium is. It's really more about the quality of it. I saw a post, I think today or yesterday, they read a book and they said, I read this book and it was really awesome. And these are 4 things that I think are the best nuggets from the book. And it was their post. And I think that's brilliant because then you could take that social post, you grab the link to it, and then you can send a post like that to people that says, "Hey, I wrote this post based on a book I read. I thought it was awesome, and I'm sharing it with some people who I think might like it." And the reason I think that is so awesome, I was speaking with Mark Clausen earlier today, and he was saying he was in a conversation with the CEO of Winnebago at one point, and he said, well, "What can I do to serve you?" And the CEO of Winnebago said, "You know what you can do? Read for me." Mark, what do you mean read for me? He's like, I just
Read
don't
your
have as
story.
much. Yeah, I don't have as much time to read anymore. So as you're out there reading, because Mark's a very avid reader, he's like, as you're reading those books, summarize them for me, share them with me, help me know what the nuggets are. And I was like, oh my gosh, see, that's confirmation when you have a CEO of a company like that saying, go out and curate content for me. That's a big need. So if our publishing strategy, one part of it could be curate content, read articles, watch videos, do whatever, share it, and tell people why and what. Like Tom, you and I've talked about with our show. I mean, maybe we're not ready to get there. curating content and sharing it with somebody is a deposit into that relational equity. Deposit, deposit, deposit before you ask for a withdrawal, before you ask for that meeting.
Yep. No, and I think that's exactly the way to look. If you're going to use InMail, email, skywriting, whatever the case may be, holding the sign up, as you were taught, whatever it is, right? It's,
Yeah.
you look at it from the deposit perspective, not the withdrawal, and provide that value. Is that as good a mechanism as somebody who's active on LinkedIn and you're commenting and all that kind of stuff? No, but it's still a strategy that can be used as part of
Yeah.
your over modern selling strategy that you're doing. And, you know, again, this is an area I think we've had this conversation a few times this week. Is modern selling is, like you said, it's leveraging digital channels, right, to build a relationship, build a healthy connection, build a relationship, and then use that relationship in a way to create demand. Um,
Yeah.
Rob, see how much value this podcast or this show has,
That's
Rob.
right.
That's it's these
I see
nuggets.
I see a startup coming,
Yeah,
skywriting.
yeah. It's going to be
Yeah,
the future, or those things that they pull behind the plane. You know, those
that's
banners
right.
or
Yeah, the
whatever. Yeah.
banner. That's
Right.
right.
Um, but anyway, it's building that relationship, creating demand from that, and then using that to continue to be that trusted advisor. And as soon as you can cross that line, right, you're golden. You're gonna win deals, and you're gonna have a lot more traction than the old
Yeah.
traditional way of buy my stuff.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure before.
See you, Mauricio. Thanks for joining us today and commenting and being
Yes,
included.
yes, thank
Yeah.
you. So Mike had a question, Mike Lauer here, which I've got to go back and find. Oh, yeah, Mike was asking, could you go over the method for looking up active employees and companies again? So I didn't want to miss
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, Mike. Sure. So go to the company page and look at the posts that they've posted, or go look at the posts the CEO or anyone from the C-suite have posted, if any, and go look at the number, or it says likes and it has a number. If you click that number, it'll pop up and show you everybody that had liked that post. And most often, in most cases, the people that engage with the company post or the CEO's post most are employees of the company.
yep. Okay. Blimps, that's another way. I just realized
Yeah.
Brandon's, the blimp may be another good strategy here.
Yeah, yeah. As Rob said, Goodyear beat us to it. Let's talk about Jeff's question on there too, and I'm going to let you answer that.
Well, how do you know, have you made enough deposits before trying to make a withdrawal? I think that's obviously dependent upon where you are in the process, right? If you're early in the relationship process, I would probably deposit and not even try and get a withdrawal in terms of a business conversation, but just be willing to get some attention and be willing
Mhm.
to, for that person to be able to have some engagement and go forward.
Yeah.
I think once you start to build a relationship and you're now trying to move that company or that person more into a customer, right? And from connection to customer, like we talked about yesterday or last week rather, and you're providing content and so forth. I think it's, again, this isn't a hard and fast rule, but my recommendation would be minimally, I'd probably try and provide value 3 times for every one withdrawal that I would go
Yeah.
through and do 3 to 4 times along the way. Um, and use the withdrawals strategically, right? I mean, make sure that they matter. Make sure that they're, don't start asking for something that if you get it isn't really going to matter very much. Like be smart when you're doing that. And, on the yellow brick road when we, in the revenue zone concept, right? I look constantly is, okay, what are the bricks? What are we doing to provide value? But of course there's certain times where we have to ask for something back and get something back.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
guess for me, it depends upon where you are in the process.
Yeah, and Jeff, I think there's some things that we could do to tactically to assess how receptive they've been to what we've shared with them too. So I do like this process of using social posts strategically. Like sometimes I'll post something that Doesn't get a whole lot of engagement, but I didn't do it for that reason anyway. I did it actually so I have something on LinkedIn that I can now share as a link to prospective customers strategically. And then when I share that in an email or in a direct message on LinkedIn, I use a link tracking tool primarily because I just want to know if they clicked it, right? So I can assess, I shared something, I made a deposit, I guess to extend the analogy is maybe I went and did the deposit, but it didn't go through. If that extends the analogy, but we make the deposit. If I share something with them and they never click the link, it wasn't a very good deposit, right? But I know if they click the link and they go to it, that's first check mark, right? Okay, they clicked it. The reason I like to do social posts that way and let them share content inside of LinkedIn is if I share a link to my website, it smells like a sales pitch, right? It feels like I'm trying to sell, and people don't want to be sold. So they look at it and go, it's on your website, right? You get a lot less click rates. But when it's a post and you can say, I wrote this social post, and then you tell them why, give them a good motivation, trackable link, I at least know they clicked it. But here's the other cool thing. If it's a social post, I'll know if they liked it. I'll know if they commented on it. And for me, that's a really good deposit. And then one or two of those, and I'm going into the messages saying, do you want to have a chat? Craft it much better than that, but you get the idea.
Yep. Yep. So again, no perfect algorithm for it, but definitely some sort of framework that can determine that cadence, if you will.
Yeah. And this is where what we talk about is, sales is hard. It takes effort and thought. There's no magic bullet. So send the in-mail, right? I've been working on this for years. They're like, how do we get how do we increase the probability? How do we do this? How do we do that? And we start discovering some tendencies of things and sending something that's giving value, knowing that they've clicked it, giving them a place where it's not as scary. Going to your website, scary. I don't care who you are. It smells like a sales pitch. Even if it's a blog about the charity you give to as a company, if it's going to your domain, it's going to smell like a sales effort and people are going to be hesitant. Keep them in LinkedIn, go to the link, and you can identify their clicks and comments and all that. But it also reinforces your social credibility, because when they get there and they see other people have commented, they see likes and stuff, you become an information giver and you're building up that credibility. Mm-hmm. So, Tom, before we run out of time, I do want us to get to our next point, which you brought up earlier, and I want to make sure that we talk about it, because I am more and more passionate about this than I've ever been, and I think it's something that everybody's got to consider for their companies.
Go for it.
Do you want to bring? Yeah.
No, I think I know what you're going to say. So go right ahead.
So, Thomas set this up great. And he was, what do we do when people aren't active? Right. And we're talking about all these different ways. But one of the things that we've experienced, or I've experienced, as I've moved my show from the digital influence show to social selling for newbies. Tom and Carson joined me. The value of a show, and I'm doing show, podcast people, I'm doing show in quotation marks, because it could be a live show like we do. It could be the podcast. It could be a YouTube channel. It could be going live on Facebook. It doesn't really matter. But doing some sort of an episodic show, I think, is just mandatory now. Yeah. If you want to stand out in modern selling, I think it's mandatory, and it gives you great content to share and great content for your deposits. And the second huge benefit is you could actually invite your customers, invite your prospects to be guests on the show. I mean, what better way to reach out to somebody? You're not asking them for anything. You're inviting them to come be a guest and share their expertise and information on your show. But I just think everybody, modern selling, You need a show. Tom, what do you think?
Shows suck. Why do we need a show? Um, no,
Says a man who does two of them a week.
um, no, I mean, obviously, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. And on top of that, and I want to share some of this later on in a further show, is we're doing a lot of testing right now about how do you repurpose, right? So how do you take a 45-minute show, break that up and repurpose it on social media from a marketing perspective, right? And we've been
Mhm.
testing this for the last month. And I think I told you yesterday, in the last week, we got 13,000 views on YouTube through repurposing of content
In a
versus
week.
in a week,
Everybody in a week.
yeah, in a week,
Yeah.
right, in a week. Um, and we're going to share some of this. I want to share some of this later on the show about the testing that we've been doing and how we're using that to further build the, I guess the broader set of exposure that we're going to get. But yeah, I think if you're serious and you have, something that you really want to share, and you can't share it necessarily in one webinar, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, it's hard to share what your knowledge is, what your value is, what you can do in one webinar or one video or one explainer video or whatever. So the episodic per way gives you that vehicle for doing that. And the fact is, it's not that hard, right? It may
Mhm.
look scary, but it's not that hard to actually accomplish either. So no, completely agree. I think Rob agrees too.
Yeah. I like that.
So
Yeah, and he followed it up. It also gives you real-time feedback, or at least consistent ongoing feedback. I
yeah,
think that's
yeah,
that's spot on.
yeah.
So, and
So
there's still, you know, on one hand, when we go, oh yeah, everybody's got a podcast, everybody has a show, everybody this, but you know what? It's not true. I mean,
no.
it seems that way, but partly it seems that way because also LinkedIn gives a lot of favor. So when we go live, like it notifies our network that we're live,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it gives a lot of favor to live and video content, which maybe is why it seems like everyone's got a show. No, you're just getting notified every time a show goes live.
So yes, shows I believe, have to be part of a modern selling strategy. And I think with that we'll wrap up, but I did want to ask for a withdrawal, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
and that is, have
We've given
everybody,
a lot of deposits.
yeah. Well, my blimp is doing great, and my skywriting is really working well.
Perfect.
But if you haven't joined already, please come and join the Modern Seller HQ community, modernsellerhq.com. It's free. We've got some great new stuff that is going to be coming into the community very soon, including a Modern Seller 101 course, if you will, that's going to be in there soon. But the community's starting to pick up. We're starting to get some really good engagement in there, and conversation and questions. And um, it's really interesting dynamic too, different than LinkedIn, because it's like we have total control of how we're doing things. And it's really interesting to see, and I'm really excited about how that's going to evolve over the next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Rob, thanks for adding that, by the way. That's really important, right?
Yeah.
There may be a lot of shows out there. And, I have, I think, 12 different shows on my podcast feed, and I rotate through them. Um, but your show is niched and very specific to your ideal client. You're gonna get people, you're gonna get viewers, you're gonna get people that want it, and so don't be afraid. I think, um,
I mean, your show is
so,
unique as your product, right? I mean, or what you're
yeah,
selling. It's why wouldn't it be any different?
yeah, yeah. And styles are all over the place. Don't look at the Gary V's and other people and go, oh my gosh, I can't be like them. Well, thank God you're not like
Yeah.
them.
You just
You're
Here's what you
perfectly
do. You
you.
start the show, you start it with a dad joke, and then you go into the topic. That's all you do. It's simple. What's
We
the
have
big
a
deal?
formula.
Yeah, there's a formula.
Hey,
Dad
shh,
joke
Tom,
system.
Tom, don't tell everyone we don't know what we're doing.
I like it. The dad joke system for building shows.
That's it.
All right. On
That's
that
it.
note, I think we should wrap up for today.
Sure.
Thanks
Well,
everybody for
and
all the comments.
Were you gonna tell a little bit about next week's episode?
Oh yeah, we have a guest next week coming up. I don't know if Michael's on today. I know he was planning to attend. Michael Cups is going to join us next week. We're going to talk about
Yeah,
we're going to talk more case study next week. So we haven't had a case
yeah,
study in a while. So we're going to jump into that. And I think we've got some really good guests teed up over the next 4 to 6 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Rob and Mike, lots of Mikes, several Michaels,
yeah,
Brandons,
we need more
Jeff.
Toms. Come on, we need to get more Toms next week.
Yeah, we got a few, but Butch, everybody, I'm kind of scrolling through. Mauricio's left, but hey, guys, thank you so much. You guys have made doing this show so much fun, and everyone on the podcast, we appreciate you. You can always add comments there and go see our show notes. Don't be Gary Vee, just copy Brandon Lee.
Oh boy.
Rob, I appreciate the rhyming there, and yeah, you're gonna get a lot less cussing from me than you will from Gary Vee. That's for sure.
All right. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.